Okay, let's dive right in. Big news in the world of high school computer science. There are some pretty significant changes coming to the AP Computer Science course, and the exam too.
That's right, big changes. So if you're connected to APCSA, maybe you're a student thinking about taking it, or a parent maybe just curious about how tech ed is evolving,
Yeah.
especially looking ahead to that 2025-2026 school year. Yeah, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, and the timing is key here, right? These updates, they kick off in fall 2025, which means the very first time students will actually see these changes on the official test is the May 2026 AP CSA exam. So, it's closer than it sounds.
Definitely. So our mission today really is to walk you through exactly what's being updated and just importantly, kind of explore why. Why is the College Board making these specific changes right now?
Yeah, because they don't just change these things on a whim. The College Board updates them periodically. They actually said something like, we periodically update AP courses and exams to reflect new developments.
Right, in their disciplines and more clearly communicate required content and skills, something like that.
Exactly. It's really just about keeping the material current,
Mm.
relevant for students heading off to college.
And for APCSA specifically, it looks like they've been doing their homework. They've surveyed college courses.
Okay.
And yeah, Java's still the main language for Intro CS, no surprise there. But the focus within those college courses, that seems to have shifted a bit.
So these updates are trying to bring AP CSA more in line with what colleges are actually teaching, like in that first year.
Precisely, aligning it better with those first semester expectations.
I kind of like thinking of it like updating a recipe,
Oh, how so?
Well, if good restaurants start using slightly different main ingredients or techniques for a classic dish, you'd probably tweak your own recipe to keep up, right?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So AP CSA is doing that, taking some ingredients out, adding some new ones in, and even changing how the final dish looks, the exam format.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. Okay, so let's start unpacking the specifics then. What's the first big ingredient they're taking out of the recipe?
The one everyone seems to be talking about,
Mhm.
inheritance and polymorphism.
Yep. That whole unit, Unit 9 it used to be, it's being completely removed from the required curriculum, for the AP exam anyway. You won't be tested on it.
Okay, so the immediate thought for a lot of people is probably, wait a sec, isn't inheritance fundamental? Isn't that core OOP stuff? Why get rid of it?
And that's a totally fair question. Inheritance and polymorphism are super important concepts in OOP. Someone called it the heart of OOP.
Right.
But, and this is the key thing, the data from colleges suggests they tend to be taught in second semester or second year CS classes.
So not usually in the first semester.
Not typically, no. It often comes later.
Okay, so it's not that it's unimportant overall, it's just maybe not the first thing you need to master. Like in our cooking analogy, maybe you don't tackle advanced pastry techniques in Cooking 101.
Exactly. You focus on the fundamentals first, and the College Board is pretty explicit about why they're doing this.
What do they say?
They're removing the inheritance unit, Unit 9, to, quote, more closely align the course with introductory college courses
Okay.
and allow teachers to cover other topics in more detail. That last part's important. Removing this complex unit frees up quite a bit of teaching time.
Time that teachers can then use to maybe solidify those really foundational concepts.
Yeah,
The ones that are definitely in college, CS1.
precisely. And it's crucial to remember students will likely still learn inheritance later on if they stick with computer science.
Right.
It just won't be a hurdle for getting that initial AP credit based on the first semester content. Teachers can still introduce it, maybe briefly, or use it for enrichment,
Sure.
but that pressure to master it for the exam, that's gone.
And honestly, the buzz I've seen online, a lot of people seem, well, relieved. Yeah, one blog post literally used all caps. Good news for a lot of people. Seems like Unit 9 was a real challenge for many. Maybe felt a bit rushed at the end of the year.
That tracks. Okay, so if they're taking that out, what are they putting in? What's the new ingredient?
This is where it gets pretty interesting, I think, from a practical standpoint. File and data handling.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that feels much more connected to, real-world programming straight away.
Totally.
So students will actually learn how to read data from text files and then work with that data.
Exactly. Because, let's be honest, outside of really simple examples, real programs almost always deal with external data, right? Files, databases, APIs. The current course sometimes feels a bit contained. Like all the data is just made up inside the program itself. This adds that whole input-output piece.
Okay, and how will they actually do that? What tools?
So the new content uses Java's standard, file, and scanner classes. It's going to be part of what's now Unit 4, focused on iteration. Students will learn methods like nextInt to read numbers, nextLine for lines of text, directly from an external file.
Wow, okay. That's actually fantastic. It immediately makes student projects feel more realistic, more scalable.
Yeah.
You can suddenly work with, much larger, more complex sample data sets, like OneSource mentioned. It lets you explore data analysis in a more realistic manner.
Totally. Instead of typing in 20 numbers by hand to analyze.
Right.
You could have a file with thousands of weather readings or survey results or whatever. It connects directly to what a lot of modern intro courses are doing anyway, getting hands-on with data sets.
And it also gives students that practical experience just using standard Java libraries and APIs, which is, a fundamental skill in itself.
So thinking about it, this feels like a pretty direct trade-off, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Like they're swapping out a more conceptual, maybe later stage topic like inheritance for something immediately practical and, frankly, really relevant to today's data-driven world. File handling and data.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It feels like a very deliberate choice, prioritizing skills that align with both early college and what you see in a lot of modern programming jobs, actually.
Okay, so beyond swapping content, I heard the whole structure of the course is getting a bit of a makeover too.
Yes, that's the third major change. The course structure itself, those 10 units we were used to, including the old Unit 9, they're being consolidated and rearranged into just 4 larger units.
Whoa, 4 units instead of 10. That sounds simpler, or maybe just bigger chunks. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, the likely reasons are things like giving teachers more flexibility, how they pace things within those broader themes.
Okay.
Maybe reducing that feeling of constantly finishing one small unit and immediately starting the next. And maybe helping students see the bigger connections between topics that are related. Just a smoother flow, potentially.
Yeah, like reorganizing your notes into 4 main binders instead of 10 little thin folders. Just feels maybe more cohesive.
Could be. And they're also doing a bit of cleanup on the side, getting rid of some of the educational jargon in the official course description.
Like what?
Things like big ideas and enduring understandings. They're simplifying the language in the guide to make it more straightforward for everyone.
So for you, the student, what does this mean day to day? Maybe the course just feels less choppy, less fragmented.
Possibly. Concepts that might have been in separate units before could now be taught together within one larger unit, which, might actually help things click better.
But the core stuff, like variables, loops, arrays, array lists, that's all still there, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those foundational concepts aren't going anywhere. They're just being regrouped within these new 4 units. Teachers will adjust their lesson plans, obviously, but the core skills you need to learn are still the essential ones.
Got it. Okay, and finally, these changes are also showing up on the test itself, right? The AP exam starting May 2026.
Yep. The exam format is getting tweaked too. Let's talk multiple choice first.
Okay.
Couple of small changes. The total number of questions goes up just slightly from 40 to 42.
42, okay.
But here's the change that got a lot of positive buzz online. There will now only be 4 answer choices per question, down from 5.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is student-friendly. Fewer tricky distractors, potentially. Less second-guessing.
That seems to be the hope. Should ease the pressure a little bit. Also, the weight of the multiple choice section is bumping up slightly. It'll be 55% of the total score, up from 50%.
55%, okay.
Yes.
And what about the free response side, the FRQs?
Still 4 questions there, but the total point value across those 4 is coming down. It was 36 points, now it'll be 25 points total.
25. So does that mean the questions themselves might be a bit shorter? Or maybe fewer parts to each question?
That's the likely implication, yeah. And consequently, the FR section will now count for 45% of the score, down from 50%.
Okay, 5-5-45 split. And there was specific change within the FRQs too, wasn't there? Something about arrays versus array lists?
Yes, exactly. And this ties directly back to that new file handling content we talked about.
Ah, okay. How so?
Question 3, which is usually the one focused on data analysis, that question will only use array lists from now on. Arrays are explicitly being removed from that specific question.
Huh. Why single out question 3 like that? Why only array lists there?
Well, think about it. If you're reading data from a file, You often don't know exactly how much data you're going to get beforehand, right? Array lists are way more flexible for that kind of variable-sized data than regular fixed-size arrays are.
Gotcha. Because array lists can grow and shrink. Makes sense for reading from files.
Exactly. So while arrays are definitely still in the course, and they could show up in other questions, for this specific data analysis question, using array lists just aligns better with the new focus on file input.
Makes sense. And then layered on top of all these changes, content, structure, exam format, there's the big shift to digital testing.
Right, which actually starts for AP CSA in 2025, so it definitely impacts that 2026 exam we're focused on.
And that's a pretty big change to the actual test-taking experience, isn't it?
Oh yeah, huge. You'll be taking the exam, including typing your code for the free response questions on a computer, using the College Board's Blue Book app. No more handwriting code.
As someone who definitely had to handwrite code on AP exams way back when, I can say typing it will feel so much more natural.
Yeah.
And probably faster.
Right. No more worrying if your curly braces look like parentheses.
Exactly.
The College Board says it's about creating a streamlined, accessible, and student-friendly testing experience. And honestly, for coding, typing on a computer just is how you actually do it.
It feels more authentic to the actual practice of programming.
Totally. The specifics of the exact coding environment within Blue Book are still kind of evolving, but overall, it's seen as a really positive step, a more natural way to test these skills.
Okay, so we've covered the what. Dropped inheritance, added file data handling, reorganized into 4 units, tweaked the exam format, and moved to digital testing. Let's circle back one more time to that big picture why. Is it just change for change's sake, or what's the real driver here?
It really, really boils down to maintaining the value of the AP's CSA course and the exam, specifically for college credit.
Right.
The whole system relies on colleges trusting that an AP score, like a 4 or a 5, actually means you've mastered the equivalent of their own intro course.
Right, so if the college intro course has changed.
AP has to change too, otherwise that alignment breaks down and the credit might not be granted as readily.
So if colleges are now doing less inheritance in CS1 and more data stuff,
Yeah.
AP CSA pretty much has to follow suit to make sure you, the student passing the exam, are actually prepared for what comes next in college CS programs.
Exactly. And like we said, this wasn't just guessing. The College Board used actual data, surveys from hundreds of college faculty looking at dozens and dozens of college syllabi.
All kinds of different schools.
Yeah, different types of institutions. They looked hard at what topics were consistently taught in that first semester, what was maybe becoming more common, and what was often pushed to CS2 or later.
So they added the popular missing pieces, like file handling, and dropped the topics that were less likely to be in CS1, like inheritance, the direct response.
Pretty much, as one source put it, kind of bluntly. If there are popular topics missing, add. When topics are less likely, dropped.
Makes sense.
Now, is everyone in the CS education world 100% thrilled? Probably not. There's always debate, right? Some educators feel strongly about teaching OOP concepts like inheritance early.
Sure.
But the process involved big committees, high school AP teachers and college professors, plus a wider advisory board. It's described as a good faith effort to maintain the credibility of the AP exam by keeping it aligned with what's happening in colleges now.
Which, at the end of the day, really benefits you, the student. Because getting a high score on that 2026 exam should give colleges confidence that you've mastered what they expect from an intro course today.
Right. And there's another why, too, maybe a bit broader. It's just about keeping the curriculum engaging and relevant. Computer science moves fast.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Adding things like data analysis makes the course feel more modern, more immediately applicable. It helps students see how programming connects to fields like data science, which is just exploding.
Makes that connection to solving real-world problems much clearer, much earlier.
Yep. And from the school's perspective, if AP-CSA reliably leads to college credit, it encourages them to offer it, encourages students like you to take it, potentially broadening access overall.
So summing up the why, sync with College CS1, teach relevant, modern skills, and make sure it's manageable so teachers can cover it well. Removing some later stage stuff makes room for valuable new stuff.
That's the core rationale, yeah.
Okay, let's bring it all home then. For you, the student, heading into AP-CSA in 2025, 2026, or later, what are the absolute key takeaways?
Okay, number 1. No inheritance or polymorphism on the AP exam. Big one.
Right. Instead,
you'll be focusing on practical skills. Reading data from files, working with that data using things like Scanner.
got it. Course structure.
More consolidated. Just 4 main units instead of 10. should feel maybe a bit more integrated.
And the exam itself?
Exam tweaks. Slightly more multiple choice, 42 questions, but only 4 answer choices each, which is, a nice little bonus.
Definitely a plus.
Free response is a bit shorter overall, 25 points instead of 36. And question 3 specifically will focus on array lists for data analysis.
And you'll be typing code, not writing it.
And you'll be typing on the Blue Book app, which most students will probably prefer.
Okay. What about teachers? Quick thought for them.
Yeah, for teachers, obviously there's an adjustment, reworking lesson plans for the 4 units, integrating the new File I/O stuff. But the College Board is providing updated resources, the new CED, practice exams coming summer 2025. There's a course audit process. It's work, yes, but hopefully leads to a more modern, relevant course for their students.
And difficulty. Is it harder?
Yeah.
Easier?
It's probably not inherently harder or easier overall, just different.
Different focus.
Exactly. Losing inheritance might remove a conceptual hurdle for some early on. Adding File I/O introduces new technical skills, maybe a different kind of challenge.
Yeah.
And it's a relevant challenge, right? It connects directly to real applications, which can actually make the learning feel more rewarding.
And those exam tweaks, like the 4-choice MC, might actually make the test feel a bit more approachable.
Could be. At its heart, though, AP-CSA is still what it's always been. A rigorous college-level intro to programming using Java.
Right.
The fundamental shift is just emphasis, moving towards practical data skills earlier and pushing some of the more advanced OOP theory, which colleges now handle later, out of this specific course. It's all about aligning with that evolving intro CS landscape.
Yeah, it really feels like a smart move to keep AP-CSA valuable, keep it relevant. By syncing up with what colleges are actually teaching now, it ensures the course keeps giving you that solid, recognized foundation.
Absolutely. And, change can feel a bit daunting sometimes, especially in education, but these updates really feel like AP Computer Science A is stepping forward, meeting the field where it is today.
So embrace the new stuff, especially that data handling. Those are skills you can use almost immediately.
Yeah, sure.
It does make you wonder, though, doesn't it? How does this shift, putting data handling right near the start, how might that change the way students like you perceive what computer science even is?
Interesting question.
Compared to, say, students from 10 years ago. Does it make CS feel less abstract, less just about algorithms, and more immediately tied to tackling real-world stuff, like analyzing climate data or finding patterns in social media? It's just something to think about as you start this updated course.
That's a great thought to end on. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this deep dive. Good luck with the new AP-CSA course. And if you're taking it, the 2026 exam, keep exploring, keep building.
Bye, everyone.